In this screencast, we're going to work with depth of field. The first thing we need to do is we need to set up the camera so it knows where it's focused. I'm going to select the camera here. You'll note that I'm actually looking through the camera right now. And I'm going to focus on my cube. So right here I have set that my depth of field object, DOF ob, on the camera to be the cube. This is in the editing button panel down here with the camera selected. I'm able to set the depth of field. I could set a specific distance, but that involves a lot of guesswork, and that would make me sad and frustrated. So now the camera knows where it's going to focus. The next thing I need to do here is switch my view to the node editor. In the node editor, I'm going to switch to the composite nodes, and I'm going to use the nodes. And you'll see up here at the top that I've got a render layer and a composite layer, and basically nothing's happening between when it's rendered and when it's composited. There's just a straight line, image to image there. I'm going to add a filter. It's going to be a defocus filter. This defocus filter is actually going to do the depth of field focusing that I wanted to do by knocking everything that's not focused out of focus. So I'm going to take the image output from the render and hook it up to the input on the defocus node. So the render is going to go into the defocus filter, and then the output of the defocus is going to go to the compositing image. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the Z buffer of the render layer, which tells me how far away from the camera my objects are, to the Z layer of the defocus, so it'll know how far away objects are so that it can make them in or out of focus. And if I care about alpha, that's transparency, I could hook the alpha directly up to the composite layer so that I've got the same transparency I had set before. We don't really need to worry about that, but that's a nice thing to do. One thing to know about Blender 249 is that the defocus node comes in with this stupid no Z buffer automatically selected. We want to deselect that. And we want to choose an f-stop that's going to get us some level of difference in focus in our depth of field, some level of depth of field. As you can see with this hovering right here over the f-stop, it tells me at f128 it's perfect focus. I'm focused on infinity. I'm going to take this down to f4, which is a much more closed camera lens here. So that'll give me a pretty dramatic, narrow depth of field. And I'm going to take my samples from 16, which is great for a preview, all the way up to 256, which is the maximum quality, so we can get a good quality render right here. So I've now set up this defocus. So if I turn on compositing, the camera knows where it's focused. It'll defocus everything that's not in focus. I just need to actually have the compositor turned on. To do that, I'm going to go to the Scene button panel, and under Animation, I'm going to say, do composite. I'm just going to turn on that button. And this means that now when I render my image, it'll come up, and the first thing I'll see will be the actual rendered image, where there it is, the rendered image, and now it's defocusing and compositing, and now we see the cube, which was my focus, is out of focus, but the sphere, which is in the foreground, I'm sorry, the cube, which was my point of focus, is in focus. The sphere, which is in the foreground, is out of focus, and the cone, which is in the background, is out of focus. And you see actually the back edge of the sphere is also in focus because it's near the cube. We might want to adjust our depth of field to address that. But that's how you set up depth of field in Blender 249.